Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Pavarikacharya Satara Sadashri Shima's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Jivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda Ki Jai. Jai Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shai Makunda Radha Kunda Giri Gaurani Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 50, and we'll be doing verses 43 and 44 by chance, or maybe not by chance. Both of them have the exact same purport, slightly different. Text number 43, we'll chant this one. Ashtadashama Sangrama Agamini Tadantara Narada Preshito Viro Yavanam Pratyadrishyata Ashtadashama Sangrama Agamini Tarantara Narada Preshito Viro Yavana Pratyadrishyata Ashtadashama Sangrama Agamini Tarantara Narada Preshito Viro Yavana Pratyadrishyata Ashtadandasa Samgrama Agaminita Andara Narada Preshito Viro Yavanam Drishyata. Ashtadashama Sangrama Agamini Tarantara Narada Preshito Viro Yavana Pratyadrishyata Ashtadashama Sangrama Agamini Tarantara Narada Preshito Viro Avana Pratyadrishyata Ashtadashama Sangrama Agamini Tarantara Narada Preshito Viro Yavanam Pratyadrishyata Astadashama Sangrama Agamini Tarantara Narada Preshito Viro Yavana Pratyadrishyata Ashtadashama Sangrama Agamini Tarantara Narada Preshito Viro Yavana Pratidrishyata Ashtadashama, the 18th, Sangrame, battle, Agamini, being about to happen, Tat Antara, at that instant, Narada, by the sage Narada, Preshitaha, sent, Viraha, a fighter, Yavanaha, a barbarian, named Kalyavana, Pratyadrishyata, appeared. Just as the 18th battle was about to take place, a barbarian warrior named Kalyavana, sent by Narada, appeared on the battlefield. Please repeat. Just as the 18th battle was about to take place, a barbarian warrior named Kalyavana, sent by Narada, appeared on the battlefield. Text 44, I'll read it, and then we'll read the translation. Ruroda maturam etya tishribir malacha kotibi nirloke chapradi dwanvo vrishnin shrutvatma samitan. Arriving at Mathura, this Yavana laid siege to the city with 30 million barbarian soldiers. He had never found a human rival worth fighting, but he had heard that the Vrishnis were his equals. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes from the Vishnu Purana concerning the history of Kalyavana. Once, Gargya was ridiculed by his brother-in-law as a eunuch, and when the Yadavas heard this, they laughed heartily. Infuriated by their laughter, Gargya set out for the south, thinking, "May I have a son who will bring terror to the Yavanas." He worshipped Lord Mahadev, eating powdered iron. Demons will do anything. And after 12 years obtained his desired benediction. Elated, he returned home. Later, when the childless king of the Yavanas requested a son from him, Garga begot in the Yavana's wife a son, Kalyavana. Kalyavana possessed the fury of Lord Shiva in his aspect as Mahakala. Once Kalyavana asked Narada, "Who are now the strongest kings on earth?" Narada replied that the Yadus were. Thus sent by Narada, Kalyavana appeared at Mathura. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanan Gyanan Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitangena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padai Krishna Prastai Bhutale Srimati Bhakta Vedanta Swami Itanamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Bacharni Nirvasesa Shunyavadi Prashadesh Charni Vanchakalpa Tarubias Jakripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Narada is a troublemaker. He's setting this up, but he's got a good person to set up. He's a demon. Interesting enough, as I said, the purport I just read is almost a word for word of the purport of the Tika by Vishwanath Chakravarti for this verse, and the Tika for the 43rd verse by Jiva Goswami is almost the same. it contains a couple other interesting points. I'll just read some of the differences. Of course, we saw that he worshipped Gargya, who, by the way, is the son of Garga Muni. Unfortunately, by bad association, anybody can become demoniac. Gargya, because he after his sacrifice of eating powdered iron, it said here, through the association of his wife, he bore a son like a scorpion. And his chest was as hard as the tip of a thunderbolt. And intoxicated with his strength, he asked Narada, who was the strongest on earth, and Narada told him that the Yadus are the strongest. So this is the demoniac mentality. Strong? No one's stronger than me. I'm the best, and I want to be tested. I'm going to make sure that I can test myself against everyone, and of course I'll win. Now, it's interesting to note that he came with an army of 30 million. Now, to give you some idea how big that is, the population of Australia is 26 million. And the population of Texas is 30 million. So he brought the whole country of Australia with him to invade Mathura. So this is a huge force being brought against the city of Mathura by this demoniac personality. So this is sort of a study in demons psychology here, demoniac psychology 101. And so I want to turn to the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Two verses I'm going to read, text number 4 and text number 18, which describe this sort of demoniac nature that Kalyavana had. Dambo darpa bimanas cha kroda parushyam eva cha agyanam chabijattasya parta sampadaram asurim. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance, these qualities belong to those of demoniac nature, O son of Pritha. Now, pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance can also be the qualities of a misdirected devotee. Think of Indra. He's very proud, he's arrogant, he's conceited, he gets angry, he acts very harshly, and he's ignorant at times. So these qualities, pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance, these are demoniac qualities that even may be present in a person who is not a demon. Similarly, sometimes demons have good qualities. Bali Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Vibhishan, these are demons who possess good qualities. So it's not like there's a hard and fast rule that every single person in one camp or the other can't exhibit some of the qualities of the other camp. However, if we look at the 18th verse of this chapter 16, Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodam cha samshrita mam atma para deheshu pradvishanto Vyasuyaka. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. So here we see a strong distinction between maybe a devotee who's a little bit off the mark with bad qualities, and a real demon. A demon is one who blasphemes against the real religion. We see over and over again that personalities, demigod personalities or pious personalities who step over the mark, when they're corrected, they take the instruction. Indra takes the instruction. He becomes humble. He offers his prayers to the Supreme Lord. The Manigriva and Nalakuvara, they were acting pretty much like demons, just cavorting naked in the celestial Ganges, without any concern for morality or any sort of decorum. But when cursed, they took the curse, and they were blessed. Even Durvasa Muni, he's a great sage. He's a devotee, but he does things like try to kill Ambarish Maharaj because he's offended. He gets offended. Oh, his pride is offended. But he takes shelter ultimately of Ambarish Maharaj because he's a devotee. But this is not the case with people like Kalayavana. It's not the case with people like Jarasandha. Jarasandha just kept fighting and fighting and fighting. Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they weren't going to give up. They were going to keep fighting against the Lord because their quality is demoniac, truly demoniac. When I was looking up this verse and these verses, I thought immediately of another personality from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that person shows up in the 62nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's Banasura. And Banasura, his father was Bali Maharaj. But even though Bali Maharaj was a saint, Banasura, because it's a demoniac family, Banasura developed demoniac qualities. And just reading from the first few verses of this chapter, we see these qualities of Banasura here, beginning with text number 2. Shukadeva Goswami said, Bana was the oldest of the 100 sons fathered by the great saint Bali Maharaj, who gave the whole earth in charity to Lord Hari when he appeared as Vamanadev. Banasura, born from Bali's semen, became a great devotee of Lord Shiva. His behavior was always respectable. He was generous, intelligent, truthful, and firm in his vows. The beautiful city of Shanitapura was under his dominion. Because Lord Shiva had favored him, the very demigods waited on Banasura like menial servants. Once when Shiva was dancing his Tandava Nitya, which is like the dance of devastation, Bana especially satisfied the Lord by playing a musical instrument with his 1,000 arms, which he'd been benedicted with. So he had some good qualities, but because he had 1,000 arms and Shiva had benedicted him, he was becoming very, very puffed up. And see how puffed up he is. The Lord and Master of all created beings, the compassionate refuge of his devotees, gladdened Banasura by offering him the benediction of his choice. Bana chose to have him, Lord Shiva, as the guardian of his city. So he has this very close relationship with Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva gives these benedictions very easily. But they're not the benedictions that Krishna gives. They're benedictions that bolster the ego, at least the ego of Banasura. So Banasura continues. Banasura was intoxicated by his strength. One day, when Lord Shiva was standing beside him, Banasura touched the Lord's lotus feet with his helmet, which shone like the sun, and spoke to him as follows. So he's paying obeisances, but here's what he's going to ask for. Banasura said, O Lord Mahadev, I bow down to you, the spiritual master and controller of the worlds. You are like the heavenly tree that fulfills the desires of those whose desires are unfulfilled. These 1,000 arms you have bestowed upon me have become merely a heavy burden. Besides you, I find no one in the 3 worlds worthy to fight. And it says that the acharyas said that the subtle implication was, Banasura said, after I take care of others, I'm going to try to take care of you too. Because I'm so powerful. So, he said, and I can't imagine, I don't know how you have 1,000 arms. It's anatomically, it's pretty tough. It's hard to buy a shirt because, it's inconceivable. So, but he has 1,000 arms, and he's itching to fight. And he asks the benediction, I want somebody to fight who's worthy of me. He goes on to say, eager to fight with elephants who rule the directions, O primeval Lord, I went forth pulverizing mountains with my arms, which were itching for battle. But even those great elephants fled in fear. Everyone was afraid of me. I come there with 1,000 arms, I'm ready to fight, and no one will come near me. So I need someone to fight. And so Shiva says, hearing this, Lord Shiva became angry and replied, your flag will be broken, fool, when you have done battle with one who is my equal. That fight will vanquish your conceit. Okay, fool, someone my equal. That, of course, is going to be Krishna. And equal is because, not really equal, but we're talking about someone who can fight you. And but Banasura, he's so bewildered. I mean, he's been told, you're going to meet somebody who's going to, wipe you out. Thus advised, unintelligent Banasura was delighted. The fool then went home, O king, to wait for that which Lord Girisha, Shiva, had predicted, the destruction of his prowess. So in the commentary by Prabhupada's disciples here, they say that here the Banasura is described as Kudi, having bad intelligence, and Kumati is foolish. He was so arrogant that he was convinced that no one could defeat him. Even when he heard, someone might beat me, I'm going to win. He was delighted to hear that someone as powerful as Lord Shiva would fight with him and satisfy his itching arms that wanted to fight. And they go on to say in the purport that today's materialistic civilization, which has the greatest amount of sense gratification, basically, that any civilization has ever had. I mean, Henry VIII did not have an Apple phone, and Julius Caesar didn't have computers, and they didn't have air conditioning. I mean, we have so much creature comfort, which is basically sense gratification, that we think we're the greatest ever, even though we're going hurtling headlong into some sort of disaster that we know is coming, but it hasn't happened yet. It's like the old saying, the doctor said it would kill me, but he didn't say when. Okay, so we have this civilization which is like Banasura, it's like Kalayavana. It's just proud to be great, even though this greatness is going to fall apart, and we all really know it. But this is the nature of demonic civilization. This is the nature of demoniac mentality. Although, they've seen that Vishnu never loses, the demons persist in trying to defeat Vishnu because of their great and strong envy of the Lord. In the Bhagavatam, in the second canto, first chapter, this is called the First Steps in God Realization. Shukadev Goswami, he's teaching Parikshit Maharaj. In verse number 4, he says, persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they do not see their inevitable destruction. So we should be sufficiently experienced to see that there's inevitable destruction. I was hearing a documentary and also read in a book many years ago that there have been 20 major civilizations on the planet before ours. And, excuse me, thank you for the water. And every one of these civilizations has fallen. Ours is the 21st. And we somehow or another think that this civilization is going to be exempt from the first 20's demise. But it's not the case. Pashyanapi na pashyati. We, although having been experienced, we don't see. Neither do the demons. They don't see. So they rush headlong into trying to challenge the Lord because they think they're so great. And this is the material disease that we're thinking somehow or other, even though the onward rush of time is taking everything away, that somehow or other you've seen in a river, sometimes an eddy. An eddy is, the river's flowing this way, but sometimes a little bit of the water flows back. So we're thinking, this is our civilization. Oh, we're going against time. Somehow we'll live forever. But eventually that eddy gets thrown back into the mainstream. So Prabhupada writes in his purport here to this verse, 214, that no one will survive the struggle with material nature. The history of human society definitely proves it, yet foolish people still suggest that in the future they will be able to live perpetually with the help of material science. You know, they sometimes talk about, oh, we're going to extend our life expectancy to 300 years. That's far short of eternity. There are turtles that live 300 years, and there are trees that live 5,000 years, but that's not eternal. Otherwise, the living soul is always different from material nature. The great ocean of material nature is tossing with waves of time, and the so-called living conditions are something like foaming bubbles which appear before us as bodily self, wife, children, society, countrymen, etc. Due to a lack of knowledge of self, this is the demons. The demons think, I'm Kalyavana. I got 30 million soldiers. No one's going to defeat me, especially not, these Vrishnis. They're called the strongest. Nah, wait till they see me. Due to the lack of knowledge of self, we become victimized by the force of ignorance and thus spoil the valuable energy of human life in a vain search after permanent living conditions which are impossible in this material world. So Kalyavana used all his time. How Kalyavana used his time, I'm not sure. It doesn't really say. He certainly didn't use it trying to chant the whole Lord's holy names or to try to cultivate a humble attitude of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is the gateway to eternal life in association with the Supreme Lord. He dedicated his time to becoming great. Now, Srila Prabhupada, he started our Hare Krishna movement. And back in the day, in the 1960s, 70s, the ISKCON, the devotees, our Krishna consciousness movement was not the only group of young people going around trying to save the world. There were others. And they always went by the name of their leaders. Like there was one church, and they were named after the leader of their church, the Moonies. And others were all named after their leaders. But Prabhupada, he stepped back, and it was the Hare Krishna movement. It was Krishna, it was Lord Chaitanya, it was Lord Nityananda, and he took the position of being the humble servant. This is the real position of a saint, a Mahatma. That the saint or the Mahatma doesn't take the position of being the great center of everything. They become the great center of everything by becoming the most humble. The meek shall inherit the earth, as the Lord said. Lord Jesus said. So the point being is that, also the first shall be last and the last shall be first. The point being is that as we try to exalt ourselves, and we can't sometimes even do this as devotees. Oh, I'm the best this, I'm the best that. No. We're not the best anything, except perhaps we strive to be the best servant and doing whatever we can do. I liked what Ratnaradika Mataji said the other day. We should try to become the best versions of ourselves. And the best versions of ourselves, whatever that is, it may be the best guru, it may be the best pujari, it may be the best gardener. But it means that we do what we do and we do it well for Krishna. And that takes this burden off ourselves to support this giant ego. And that's where all the pain's coming from, supporting this ego. Look at Durvasa Muni. He had all these powers, but he has a giant ego. If you offend him, he'll just go after you. Now, if you offend someone like Maharaj Ambarish, he doesn't go after you. He just prays to Krishna. And of course, then maybe one gains an unfortunate position of having offended a Vaishnava. But a Vaishnava does not defend him or herself because we're not trying to support a giant ahankara. We're trying to ultimately overcome the false ego and become humble servants of the Lord. And how to do that? Well, In the next verse of the second canto, chapter 1, number 5, O descendant of Bharata, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the supersoul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries. And so in the previous verse, Shukadeva Goswami talked about foolish persons who try to enjoy this material world and try to defeat material energy with all their plans, and how they end up always being defeated because Dukalayama Shashvatam, this is a temporary place of misery, and you're not going to find any permanent solutions here. So Prabhupada writes, therefore, if one desires freedom from this vicious cycle, then one must cease to act as a karmi or enjoyer of one's own work, good or bad. One should not do anything either good or bad on his account, but must execute everything on the behalf of the Supreme Lord, the ultimate proprietor of everything that be. Not anything good or bad. In karma, there's vikarma, and then there's akarma. Akarma means we're not acting for ourselves. People may do good things in this world, but it's ultimately for things in this world. We're feeding the poor, we're clothing the poor, we're building hospitals, and you can't say they're bad, but they're binding. And then we want our name on the hospital. So, there's part of the ego thing. So one should not do anything either good or bad on his own account, but must execute everything on the behalf of the Lord, the ultimate proprietor of everything that be. This process of work is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita. Yad karoshi yadasnasi yad jajosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kauntaya tat karushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So we're in practice to do that, even though we have to admit it. We don't always do that, but we're trying. Therefore, what's the first thing we need to do is when we try? Therefore, one should first of all hear about the Lord. When one has perfectly and scrutinizingly heard, one must glorify his acts and deeds, and thus it will become possible to remember constantly the transcendental nature of the Lord. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. So we have to hear about the Lord, and we have to then glorify. So we hear, we study, we come together to hear the Bhagavatam, and then we become enlivened, and then when we meet people, we're able to go out on a Rath Yatra yesterday in Raleigh and give the holy names. Who knows how that touched people? It's like the COVID virus. It just gets spread. So the Hare Krishna virus. So they get the virus of the Maha Mantra in their ear, and it may not do anything, but the incubation period for certain people may be a whole lifetime. But it's going to incubate, and they will become devotees. And some people who have a very low material immune system, they may get infected very quickly. And that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra will have its effect quickly. Therefore, hearing about and glorifying the Lord are identical with the transcendental nature of the Lord, and by so doing, one will always be in association of the Lord. This brings freedom from all sorts of fear. Everybody's afraid in this material world. Just look at the squirrels and the birds. They're all afraid. And the people are afraid too. What's going to happen to my accounts? What's going to happen in this world? Everyone is afraid. The Lord is the Supersoul, Paramatma, present in the hearts of all living beings, and thus, by the above hearing and glorifying process, the Lord invites the association of all his creation. This process of hearing about and glorifying the Lord is applicable for everyone, whoever he may be, and will lead one to the ultimate success in everything in which one may be engaged by providence. If we want to be happy and satisfied, we have to know who we are and what our real self-interest is. And of course, Kalyavana and Banasura and the host of demons, they don't know anything. And in our material world, we've had so many people today who are little Banasuras, going around beating their arms and their chests and saying boastful things and promising something, but they can't save themselves and they can't save anyone else. You know, they're all pretty much equivalent to the captain of the Titanic. You had a great vehicle, but you didn't use it right, and it all ended up in a disaster. So the way to use our vehicle correctly is to chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And by hearing about and glorifying the Lord, all a person's activities become molded into spiritual activities, and thus all conceptions of material miseries become completely vanquished. We have the solution right here. We just have to do it. And that's given to us every day. So thank you very much. Glorious Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Maharaj. Yes, yes. Because he fought Krishna. Yeah, he married in a good family, and he did have his pride curbed when he had 996 arms removed. So yes, Banasura did have a good ending, but at the point we left the story, he was hurtling towards a big problem. Yeah. Anything else?
There was another guy with 100 arms, Kartavya Arjuna. It didn't have a good ending.
Yeah. So.
Because he got wiped out by Parshuram.
So we see 100 arms or 1,000 arms. If you don't surrender to Krishna, nothing's going to save you. Although Krishna will save you if you're a demon and you're killed by Krishna directly. But that's an honorary degree that actually most demons don't get.
I'd like to say that this comment about being the best we can be in regards to maybe the functions we perform or the duties we perform for the Supreme Lord really begin with being the best we can be as a person. It's not so much what we do, is what is in the person that is the best that can be transmitted into the different activities of worship or functions in devotional life. Yes, a comment.
We see from Srila Prabhupada how to be the best you can be in everything. And so we have to follow in his footsteps. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
I was able to locate the glasses. It was very easy.
You found them?
Yes, I did.
They're pretty nice, isn't it?
I'm going to order two, the small ones and the ones that come in a case. They're very thin also.
Yeah.
Compare them, decide which one.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar ako ikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govinda. Namaho Vishnu Pataya Krishna Prastaya Bhutalaya Shimate Bhaktivedanta Saminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Praja Negiyan Nivasesha Shunyavani Paschachavani Satarane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Siva Sade Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Siva Sade Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Jananda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare